All right, guys, so let's continue with chapter 4. So we're going to be talking about supervisory planning because the main idea here is that a supervisor is kind of like an architect. You don't just react to problems, but you should design how things should work, right? Because without a plan, works work becomes chaotic, people get confused, results become inconsistent. So today is about answering how do supervisors plan effectively? So let's go ahead and get started here. So what is planning? So planning is deciding is or the process of deciding what needs to be done, by whom and when. It's simple, but it's very powerful, right? And here's the key idea. Planning is the foundation of everything else, right? If your plan is weak, organizing fails, staffing fails, the leadership struggles, and control becomes reactive, right? You're not planning ahead of time, you're reacting to crises, right? So planning is not optional. So it's the starting point basically of all management. So quick question. Do most people actually plan or just react, right? So just think about that. Okay. Now let's go deeper here. Every plan starts with two things. So you have a mission statement. Here you have it here on the left. And then you have a vision statement. So let's go ahead and go over these quickly here. So now let's focus on the mission statement. So the purpose or the what do we use it for is it gives the company or the organization purpose. It gives identity, right? It's basically the core reason for being. Like, what is your goal, your overall goal? Okay. So, what's the basic philosophy? What is the purpose? And what is the reason for being? That is the mission statement. The vision statement, right? It's more about future goals, right? It's about where is the company, where is the organization going, in what direction is the company going? And the scope is more into the long-term focus. So think of it this way. Mission statement is about today, right? And the vision statement is into the future, into tomorrow. And supervisors and managers must align their the mission statement and the vision statement, right? So that daily plans are working in the same direction. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And again, I'm trying to make these straight to the point, and I don't want to ramble too much. Okay, so here we have what's on the left here, we have Peter Drucker's 5 questions, right? And we're talking about the anatomy of a plan. So Peter Drucker's 5 questions, the first one is, what is our mission, right? Who is our customer? What does the customer value? What are our results? What is our plan? So these questions, these 5 questions, Peter Drucker um, came up with these to basically understand what the plan is, what the mission is, to understand the fundamentals, right? And on the right, we have planning target, right? This is more um, asking, why must this be done? When should it be done? By when, right? Who is going to be doing it? Where should it be done? How should it be done, right? So these are just two ways of planning, right? In a nutshell, think about planning as not just, oh, let's go and do this. Let's just tackle the problem. But it's really about asking the right questions. So this is what separates structure planning from just guessing and reacting, right? So either method is very, very useful. Okay. So from strategy to supervision. Now we connect big picture to daily work, right? So at the very top, you have strategic plans, and these plans are made by upper management. Then you have department objectives, you have metrics, and you have dashboards, right? And here's the key idea. Supervisors translate strategy into action, right? So you take big goals and you turn them into daily tasks, right? So what about metrics and dashboards? Well, metrics is you're measuring how the performance is. You're measuring what the output of the department is, and in the dashboard, that's how you visualize the metrics, right? You are looking to see if everybody's working in the same direction. The dashboard is basically a visual presentation or a visual visualization of, how progress is being made by the team. And so they work hand in hand. Okay, so let's talk about management by objectives or MBO. And this is very important, right? So this is what it means. MBO is the process by which the supervisor and the employee set the employee's objectives, and employees receive rewards upon achieving those objectives, right? So this is how it goes. So performance is measured against the goals, right? So at the end of the day, we're going to be looking at supervisors, we're going to be looking at results, and we're going to see if those results, if those goals were met, and if they were met, the employees are rewarded with a bonus, etc. Right? So let's look at the steps. So we're going to set SMART goals or SMART objectives, right? We're going to identify resources, what things we need to get to achieve the goals. If we need a particular resource, we acquire it. We complete the activity, right? We go through the activity, whatever we're working on, if it's a new project, if it's, setting up an assembly line, etc. Right? And then at the very top, or at the end of the process, we measure the results. And the results have to be compared to the initial objective. So we have the results here. Once we go through all the process, we have to compare these results to the initial objective that we set in the beginning to see if we were successful in achieving those. If not, we have to recalibrate and start again, right? So this, MBOs or management by objectives, it just creates clarity and accountability. That's the way I see it. Okay, so why is MBO so powerful? So I'm going to give you three reasons. MBOs are results oriented. So it focuses on outcomes, not just activity. Number two is they are a motivational tool. Employees know what they're working towards, right? So we can see this as a motivational tool. It's a fair system. Rewards are based on performance because remember that at the end of the day, we're going to compare results to the initial objective. And based on that, we reward the employees. So instead of guessing, right, everybody knows the target. So this is why we utilize MBOs. Okay, so not all plants are the same. There's two main types of plants. We have one here in the left, and we have another one here on the right. So let's talk about standing plants. Standing plants, think of these plants as plants that we can repeat and we can reuse over and over and over again for processes that we do on a daily basis. Okay. So in standing plans, we have policy, right? Number one is policy. And this is a general guide on making decisions, right? Stage two, we have procedure. right? It defines the sequence of activities to achieve objectives, right? Or the steps. Number three, we have the method, okay? And method is basically how we go through this operation, how it has to be performed, how to do it, okay? Let me move out of the way. Here, I'm going to move here. All right. And number four, we have the rule. And the rule is a directive that must be applied and enforced, right? So maybe, along the process, there are things that we can't change, right? And these would fall into the rule. So for processes that we do on a daily basis, you can think of, if you work at McDonald's, if you're supervising a McDonald's, there is a way to make a Big Mac, right? You have rules, you have a method, you have a procedure. You put in the patty first, and then you put the pickles, and then you put, right? So this would be a standing plan. How you make a Big Mac is a standing plan, right? How you make a McChicken, there's a standing plan to make a McChicken, right? There's a policy, right? There's procedure, there's method, there's a rule. Okay, so now let's talk about the other type of plan. We have single-use plans, and this is for, a one-off, something that happens that has to be addressed. We come up with a plan, we go through the activity, we go through the project, and we're not going to use it again, right? So we have the project, right? That would be step one, right? And it's just a one-time activity, right? We have a budget. We anticipate, results in financial terms, and we maybe not, we don't focus too much on cost cutting. Um, and single use plans, think of it as we're gonna open up a new warehouse. We're gonna start a new production line. We're gonna open up a new branch, right? This would be more into that category. It's something that we plan for that we just do once and we're done with it, right? And as you know, if you compare it to standing plans, think about how you make a McChicken. There's policy, there's procedure, there's a method, there's rules, right? A McChicken is a McChicken everywhere you go, right? In any McDonald's. Okay. So so remember, you have standing plans and you have single use plans. Okay. So we have resource optimization. So as a supervisor, you have different types of resources, right? You have physical and safety resources, you have human resources, you have time resources, and you have inventory resources. I'm going to just briefly go over these. So physical and safety, right? You have workplace safety and OSHA standards. Um, we just got to make sure that we're following safety procedures because we don't want to have any liability in the workplace. So that's for physical and safety. Human resources is everything that has to do with recruiting, with selecting, with appraising employees, compensation, right? And even motivating employees, right? And think about employees as humans, right? Because at the end of the day, they're humans, and their needs are based on human needs, right? Many different employees have different needs, so we have to try to accommodate. Okay. And then we have time. Time refers to scheduling, overtime, flex work. Um, as supervisors, we need to optimize the time resource as well. And we have inventory, right? Another resource that we have is inventory. So materials, supplies, data. So as supervisors, we have to optimize and deal with and manage all of these resources. So here's the key. Good planning is using these resources efficiently. Okay. So now let's talk about this philosophy, the just-in-time inventory control system. So it's just the JIT, or just in time, is all about efficiency, right? Imagine you're managing a warehouse. okay? And you make, uh, let's say that you make water bottles. So you have to keep track of two things, the bottle and the caps, right? Let's say that you have thousands upon thousands of bottles, right? And you have them just in stock, right? Well, this is very inefficient. The just-in-time inventory control system is getting those bottles and those caps when you need them, when you're going to assemble the product. Maybe the water bottle wasn't a great idea, but let's pretend that you work in a Nike factory, right? And you have a bunch of leather and a bunch of rubber and a bunch of laces, and having all of that stored is wasteful because you have to pay for storage. All of that space is costing you money. So you want the leather and the rubber and the laces, right, to get there when you're going to build the product. You don't want to have extra inventory because that's wasteful, right? It's just cumbersome and it's expensive to have all of those materials just stored because at the end of the day, it's just wasted money. That money that went for that inventory that is just frozen in the warehouse could have been used to do something else, right? To give out a bonus to motivate employees or to, expand, production line, etc., right? Or marketing, right? So just in time is all about efficiency, right? No extra inventory, no waste, right? Another name for just in time, it's called they call it Kanban, and it's just another name for the same thing. But again, the goal is to reduce waste and increase efficiency. Okay, so let me just talk about some ways that we keep track of data. First, we have the knot charts, and these are graphic uh, charts that show us activities on the vertical axis and the initial and completion dates, right? Um, so basically, well, you have the dates on top, right? And it shows the start and when that activity is supposed to finish. So it just gives you a visual representation of how some of these activities are are tracked. Um, Now, also we have the PERT charts, and think about the PERT charts as flow charts of project steps. And now, both of these charts help supervisors stay organized, track progress, and manage time. So again, planning is not just about thinking, it's about sometimes visualizing the work. Okay, so let's talk about quality and knowledge management. Now we move into improvement, right? Uh, the TQM or total quality management approach is an approach involving all employees to satisfy customers by continually improving goods and services. Um, so again, this is a process that never stops. And we're always asking the question, how can we improve our processes, right? So we can satisfy our customers and be more efficient. Now, then you have knowledge management, right? And this is sharing and using information effectively, right? Also, you have, what's benchmarking is, basically identifying and improving on best practices of leaders. And then you have ISO 9001, which is an international quality of standard, right? So the idea is planning is not just static, right? It evolves and improves over time, right? And these are just some ways that, or some philosophies that planning supervisors have to take into consideration. Okay, so crisis planning. Um, The last piece is very important here. Now, planning is not just for normal situations, right? Sometimes we have things coming up, or a crisis. So the cycle shows here. First, you identify the risks, right? You develop a plan for the something that might happen. Develop a what we call a contingency plan. Form crisis teams. You simulate. You respond immediately, and we learn from the experience of others, right? If maybe another company has gone through this, we can just ask questions and learn from, what happens when they face certain challenges. Um, and here's the takeaway. Great supervisors plan for the unexpected. And what could be a crisis? Well, fire, right? If you're in charge of a factory floor, you're supervising a department. Let's say that there should be a contingency plan for fire. There should be a contingency plan for when somebody gets stuck in a machine or they get a finger or a hand is stuck in the machine. Um, so we should be ready for anything. Okay. So again, let's just bring it together. Planning is about turning ideas into actions, turning goals into results, turning chaos into structure. And you could say that the best supervisors don't wait for problems. They try to prevent problems from happening ahead of time. So this was chapter 3, guys. I'm going to stop here and we'll see you in chapter 4. All right, thank you.